Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. So I've been thinking since a lot of time that I need to upload a video. Previous video of mine which is about books I purchased like within 100 and 150 rupees that got quite a lot of views from you guys. So I decided to make something which is related to books again. If you guys don't know me, you can follow me on my Instagram, which is SNCJJK. I have added that here. So okay, you can follow me up there, and then you'll come to know that I am a writer. You can say an inexperienced writer. So, this video is gonna be all about how I entered the writing thing, my passion for books, and where do I read books for free? How do I get to read books without even buying books, right? So, this video is going to be a collective video of an answer to various questions you guys might have. So, the story starts from 2020, wherein it was the pandemic time. We were locked up in our homes, and there's nothing we could do about it. At that time, I realized that watching shows, watching series is kind of too boring to do, and it includes a lot of screen time. So, I decided to switch it to books. So that time there was an app called Anybooks, which would lead you to like reading books for free. And so I read my first ever novel there, which was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. If you guys know it, you might have even watched the movies. It's in three parts. So yeah. Uh, Later on, Anybooks started to charge money for reading books, so I shifted to Wattpad. Now, when it came to Wattpad, there were a lot of genres available here. There were a lot of books available here. But unlike Anybooks, which has basically the books which are actually published, Wattpad is an app where you'll find books published on the app, but they are not actually paperback forms are not available. But still, reading was what I was into. So anything like any story, what I wanted to invest my time was on basically reading, be it about anything or be it be available anywhere. So I started with the thriller genre. To All the Boys was more of romance, but then I entered the thriller genre by reading The Cellar by author Natasha Preston. So it was quite a good book, and it has two parts. So if someone is into thriller or all that stuff, you could like really read the book. It's a highly recommend. It's available in paperback as well. So yeah, with over 100 plus books I read in 2020, and then my sister she asked me to write a book. Now, this question like where do you get the inspiration for writing, or when did you decide to be a writer? So it basically starts when you read a lot. When a person keeps on reading, and there is so much you read, there's so much in your mind, you get so many ideas. You're an imaginative person, you are creative. The person like we and me and my sister, we've always been creative. Before writing, what we used to do was we used to draw stories. So we were quite good at making stories, cooking up stories. So she said, asked me to why not write a book, and I decided, yeah, no one's gonna judge me, and why not write a book? I should actually. So I just downloaded this app, Wattpad, and I wrote my first ever book, which was Lily Blooms. Now, as a writer, what happens is like ideas just come to you randomly. You need not search for ideas; they just happen. So Lily Blooms just happened to me, and I barely took 2 3 months in writing the book, and I completed the book. Now, what it is having, you get to know only when you read the book. Well, I would recommend not to read that book because it's too raw, and I was a child when I was writing it, so it has a lot of mistakes. But yeah, that was my first experience writing something about something. Mm, Looking for something actually. Yeah. Uh, so coming back to the point where I was. So yeah, I wrote my first ever book, which was Lily Blooms. Now, when I ended the book, it was just 173 views, not a lot of views. I guess hardly there were 4 5 people who might be reading the book. It consisted of around 30 chapters. Quite a basic book from enemy having the trope of enemies to lovers. Then I decided to switch my genre from writing a book, which is like completely non-fan fictional, to fan fiction. Like at that time, I was into K-pop a lot, so I basically BTS. So I started with writing of fan fictions. Now, when we talk about fan fictions, generally what comes to the mind of people is YouTube fan fictions or Instagram fan fictions. But no, that was not what I did. My approach was basically at this point of time as a writer, I have a story, I have a good plot, I want people to read it. But how do I get the people? The question was, how do I get the people? Now, being a person who's into commerce, I realized the importance of audience, readers, people who are gonna invest their time in reading my book. So I chose to write fan fictions. Now, what I'll do in these fan fictions, I decided I'll have a story, an entire novel, a pura idea. I'll have it everything. And what I'll do is every story has a male protagonist and a female protagonist. What I have to do is to just change the male protagonist to a BTS member, and then we're gonna get, yes, you got me right. We are gonna get readers. I don't find that there's something bad about it because it's a marketing strategy. It's an idea to gain more people, to make people read your book, when you actually what you do is you write a book. And it's completely legal to do so. People write fan fictions, and it's been going on since a while. So I started with my first fan fiction starring Jeon Jungkook, my bias. So yeah, I started with that. By the way, I have Cookie with me. So yeah, I started kind of. I'll click some pictures too. Yeah, so yeah, I wrote my first ever fan fiction. That time I was also into C dramas a lot, so the story I based it was in China, Korea, and I made them. BTS was BTS. I used the band and everything. I didn't change their roles, and I just created a story which crossed 1000 reads. Now 1000 reads was very significant to me at that point of time because like the previous book which I talked about was barely 100 reads. So when this book, particular book, just because of starring Jungkook, it somehow reached 1000 reads, it gave me an idea. Then why not just keep writing using BTS characters? Then the process began with me writing my first ever erotica book, which is Be My Lollipop. Now, as a person, there were people who really loved that work. There were people. Be My Lollipop was like a turning point in my life as a writer. It was basically a story about a widow who meets this boy who's Jeon Jungkook in the current version, which is there on the Wattpad book. But recently, I've been editing it to make it free of any kind of fan fiction kind of thing. So yeah, so it's basically about a widow falling in love with a boy who's younger to her by about 6 to 8 years. I kind of little bit remember what I wrote because it's been over 4 years when I last wrote that book or edited any part of it. So it's about that. Now there were people who really loved the idea. There were people who were into it because the book is an adult book. It consists of scenes, 18 plus scenes, and I've written them quite well, I believe so. And there were a lot of readers who got attracted to the book, to my writing, and they invested their time in the book. That made me happy. But at that particular point, when you're reaching some kind of success, you're getting something. Success to me was getting readers, getting reads, like 1000. The book was, I was writing the book during that process only, it completed 1000. Then I don't remember how it crossed 5000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and currently it's 95,000 reads. I'm waiting for it to just be 1 lakh reads so that in process with its paperback version, because it has been receiving a very good response till date from the readers side. So there were people who came to me and they were like, what shit am I writing? I'm kind of sexualizing BTS members, when what I was doing was basically cooking up a story replacing the male lead with a BTS member. Nothing more, nothing less than that. But yeah, there were people who came to me who criticized me that this is not a book, this is not a story. What kind of story is that where you have sex scenes? I mean, why not? Why not? In India, we can say basically people kind of judge you for whatever you do. So it was very normal for people to come and judge me for writing explicit scenes. You are comfortable watching them, you are comfortable watching dirty videos on dirty sites. But if someone is writing something, you get offended. I mean, why? So what I decided was that I'm not going to pay heed, obviously, to such kind of people who are going to come and comment upon my work. And it's not like I'm kind of writing a story full of explicit scenes. I was basically writing a story which had some kind of romantic, intimate scenes. And as a person, I believe that it's really, really important. Otherwise, the book becomes dry, the series becomes dry. It could be my perception of watching things or seeing things like that. But obviously, for me, it does become dry if you do not have intimacy. Intimacy is very, very important, according to me. So I didn't pay heed to such kind of people coming to me, commenting upon my character for writing the books, or the characters I used in the book for what kind of people were they, right? But obviously, I ignored them and I moved forward with writing more books like Love Story, and I wrote Road Gig. Then I also wrote Be My Popsicle as a sequel to Be My Lollipop. I know the names are like quite weird, but again, when I wrote Be My Popsicle, it was people were already so much influenced by Be My Lollipop that there was a huge crowd already waiting for Be My Popsicle to release, and it was basically having starring Taehyung, and again, it was a story with smut. People got excited. I got a lot of respect from my readers. I got a large amount of readers who came to read my books. There was a good response. I was getting reviews. Everything was going so good. And then I also decided to release a standalone book consisting of all kinds of explicit scenes because why not? My readers are into that, and it's not like I wrote the entire book in one go, the explicit one. It was basically, it took me 1 year, basically, to write 15 chapters dealing with that, but I wrote. Then again, this book was Sensei, which was again loved a lot by my readers. Now, some people might find that as a person, I'm writing something which my reader want me to write, but it's not the case because then I again took a risk to write something which was like really different from what I was writing. So, as I previously told that I was writing fan fictions a lot, then I decided to shift to write a fan fiction. I also wrote a fan fiction which is thriller. It's quite underrated, but I'd suggest if you're watching this video, please go through Forget Me Not because it's quite an amazing book. The first ever thriller mysterious book which I wrote, and I want everyone to read it. It's quite good without any explicit scenes I mentioned. So I decided to. There was a change in ideas, and I decided to go with another concept that is writing a Indian story featuring Indian characters, something away from BTS, something away from fan fiction, and I gave it a shot. The book was My Dear. It's basically based on arranged marriage, how they could prove to be more beautiful, more lovable than the love marriage scenarios. When I was writing My Dear, there were very few readers who read the book, and I completed it with around 4,000, 5,000 readers. The book was completed with that much amount of readers, but then one day it happened. So, My Dear is one of those books of mine which I promoted a lot on my YouTube, on my Instagram, everywhere, wherever I could. I did promote it because it was non fan fictional, so normal people can also go and read it, and explicit scenes are nil in that particular book. So, I'm not writing to satisfy my readers, and a writer should never write to satisfy their readers. It can be a technique during your initial stage as a writer to attract people, giving them something what they want, but you're not gonna go along. It's not going to continue in the long term if you just cater to what your readers want you to write. So it was something very different I wrote, and then one day my Wattpad was booming with notifications. Guess what? My Dear had worked. It crossed 5,000 views a day. The next day it crossed 10,000 views, and it's been growing since then. Over 25,000 reads by now. Currently, again, I'm writing over a fan fiction that's upon gangsters, mafia world, and everything because I wanted to try that domain as well. I have a lot of ideas related to some non fan fictional books, some romantic kind of books, and some even classical book. I got a recent idea when I was born. I was sleeping and I got a dream, and the dream was revolving around all that stuff which was going on in my head, and I got it. So I decided to write another book of that sort. Now, this was my entire journey as a writer, and currently, I feel that I have improved a lot. As a writer, It's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I would love to continue in the future. And of course, I want to get my books published in paperbacks as soon as possible. Now, some of the questions or some of the tips I could say is, number one, if you are a reader, read all kinds of genres. Do not just stick to one genre. It could be your favorite, but you need to have a idea about various other genres too. So one tip is that. The second be, if you are thinking of writing or starting to write something, go ahead with it. There's no problem. No one's gonna judge you. Write and improve. Thirdly, please do not ever copy any writer's work. During this transition of me becoming a writer, there were many people who tried to copy my work, to copy certain parts of my work. Some sold it on Instagram, some copying it blatantly on Wattpad, thinking that I might not know. But in this era of technology and development and readers, people are gonna inform the writers, the true writers, about who's doing what with your work. So kindly, whenever you are writing something, make it original, make it genuine. It should be your idea. A little bit similarity with someone else's idea is still understandable, but the entire plot, the lines, the dialogues, it isn't, right? So try to make it as genuine, as OG as possible. Then inspiration, as I said, could come from anything. You need to be a creative, imaginative person to be a writer, and you should write in such a sense that the other person is able to imagine what's happening, and they can feel that it's like a movie going on. So you need to get a hold on that. I guess that's what writing is all about. For me, it's something I can't live without, and I guess if you are into books that much, you can give a shot at writing if you want to. So that's it about. I just wanted to rant some random topics, and I wanted to create a video also for my YouTube. I guess I served both the purposes. So if you got any queries related to writing, related to Wattpad, or if you want something of me talking about my characters or my books or anything of that sort, feel free to comment on the video, and if you liked it, press the like button. Do subscribe to my channel if you're new for such weird content. Okay, bye bye.